I'm off from my day job today, and my night job rather, and I don't work days in the summertime. So I'm making this video in daylight. I know it's weird. I look different today, don't I? Black Rifle Coffee. I'm gonna talk about the Bodega incident in Manhattan in New York City. There was an individual called Jose Alba who was a legal immigrant from Dominican Republic who came to America and became a citizen. A bodega is, call it a convenience store, okay? For the purpose of this discussion, it's a convenience store. It's the same thing. The only difference is it might be in a bad neighborhood or a ghetto, but it's a convenience store. Just think of it as that, okay? And he's working the counter. And a woman comes in with what they call an EBT card, which is she's on food stamps. And rather than have a paper food stamp, you have an actual credit card looking thing that you swipe and it subtracts money. And you get X number of dollars a week or a month, depending on how many kids you have, blah, blah, blah. She wanted to buy a bag of potato chips and her credit expired. So the clerk said, you cannot buy the chips, you have no credit left. Now, in theory, there have been times in the past where they're 75 cents short and they have a little baby and they're buying a box of diapers and the clerk will say, just forget it. Or the clerk will go in his own pocket and pull out the 75 cents. I've seen stuff like that before, okay? Or even another customer might say, here, I have $1 and you have cereal with 3 kids, so I'll put $1 in. A lot of people have done that before. They're not an obligation to. Now, it also depends on how nice you are. If you're an asshole, they're not going to do it. This woman had her 10-year-old daughter with her, by the way, went outside to get her boyfriend. Now, I've seen many times women and small men. And when I say small men, I don't mean midgets. I mean men of small character. Okay? You could be fat, tall, okay? Men of small character will actually implore someone else to help them with the discussion. Not a fight, not an argument, because I used to work in a supermarket. And there were a lot of times we had problems and they would say, listen, you got a problem, get security on it. And I would have an issue and they'd go, let me get the store detective or whatever, and have security help me with this problem, or have the police help me with this problem. Yeah. Okay, so I understand there's a confrontation and you're afraid of violence, so you implore security or police. That I understand. But if you are a person, a woman or a man, if I can call you a man, and you have security or some big goon come over and settle a simple discussion, you're a piece of shit. I'll tell you that right now. You are a piece of shit, okay? Because it's a subtle threat, okay? The woman is 5'1", 110 pounds. I'm having a problem with the manager. I'll go out and get my 6'4", 250-pound husband help me with this problem, okay? It is a subtle threat. Now, in her case, her boyfriend was a convicted felon on parole for assaulting a police officer. So now, the fact that you know for a fact that your boyfriend is capable of physical violence, now it is not a subtle threat. Now it is a direct threat. Okay? Because getting someone that you know can get violent is a direct threat. He comes in, and in spite of the fact that she's on food stamps and he has no job, he for some reason has a gold earring and a $300 shirt. Okay? He goes behind the counter. Now, anybody that's ever worked the counter, gas station, liquor store, convenience store, bodega, fast food joint, if you work the counter, especially the night shift counter, there is an understanding that if someone comes behind the counter, it is an automatic threat. Even if they're getting ready to kiss you and have a thank you balloon in their hand, coming behind the counter is a direct threat, automatically. And there have been people that are behind the counter, they automatically call the police or call security. Okay, you're automatically in the wrong from a legal standpoint. And there have been guys that if you come behind the counter, they'll pull a gun on you right away. If they have a gun behind the counter, they'll pull it out right away. because they don't know what you're doing. They don't know if you're gonna rob them or steal from them or hit them or whatever reason. He comes behind the counter after the clerk tried to de-escalate, by the way. He comes behind the counter. He grabs the clerk physically, starts assaulting him. At one point, he grabs him by the throat. Now, if you grab someone by the throat, that itself is a deadly threat because I can break your neck, I can choke you out. Okay, that is a deadly problem. You can suffocate, so any grabbing of the neck. That's why police officers don't grab the neck anymore to fight. At that point, the clerk has a kitchen knife somewhere. He pulls it out and stabs the guy and kills him. At that point, the woman pulls out a prison shank out of her purse and stabs the guy. Now, in theory, if a guy attacks your boyfriend, you stabbing him could be considered self-defense. However, if you were the one that started the problem, it's assault. Now, under New York State law, from like the 1960s, which is still in effect to this day, this individual was under no obligation to retreat from his business. Coupled with the fact that if he's backed against the wall and grabbed by the throat at one point, he can't retreat even if he wants to retreat. So now the DA in Manhattan is charged with murder. The girlfriend is charged with nothing. The dirtbag is dead. Now, the gentleman running for governor here, Lee Zeldin, promised over a year ago that the very first thing he would do is fire the DA. And he's further illustrated that fact now. The Spanish community is up in arms about this. And the Bodega, convenience store, night crew, 7-Eleven, those guys have actually formed a coalition to challenge this. Because if you work at an overnight anywhere in Manhattan, you now know that if someone tries to kill you and you defend yourself, you can be total murder at this point. Okay, and I think this is going to be it. I think that this fucking state has finally had it with this liberal fucking bullshit. And I personally think that this is finally going to be the last straw. Okay, because Manhattan is a bastion of liberalism. The Hispanic community tends to lean Democrat. The low-income families tend to lean Democrat. So now you got the Hispanics, the people in Manhattan, and the night crew clerks that are shitting fire right now. Okay, so the only liberal stronghold in New York State is New York City. Okay, the fifth borough of Staten Island, their DA came out and said, we're not going to charge clerks for defending themselves. Staten Island mostly votes Republican. Okay, that's like the one bastion of Republicanism in the city. Okay, but now you have Manhattan, which is about 80% Democrat on any given day. And they are furious about this. So the Democratic machine in Manhattan is being compromised because of this incident. Because in addition to Manhattan and all the Bronx, they look at the drug addicts and the thieves and the rapists and all that bullshit. Now they're looking at this. Now they're saying to myself, wait a minute. This guy was a crime victim who defended himself, and now he's being charged, okay? You won't charge the guys that are assaulting people. You won't charge the guys that are raping people, okay? You won't charge the drug dealers, the murderers, the thugs, the robbers. You won't charge them with shit, okay? But now you're going to charge this guy with murder. And that's it. Now, also on a side note, New York City at one point in time arrested guys having a single-hand open knife. If you had a knife with a thumb stud or thumb hole or flipper or any single-hand open, they would have cops, not all the cops, but some cops, would take that knife and without using the thumb stud, they would go like this with it for a half hour, like this. And if they opened the knife, they charged it as a switchblade. But this one with a prison shank is not being charged. That incident with the knife thing, that went to federal court and they stopped that shit. But at one point in time, you got guys going to work with a knife in their pocket. You detain them for a half hour, and if you flip the knife, you'll be arrested for possession of a deadly weapon. But this woman takes her weapon, her prison shank, and stabs the guy with it, and now no charge. Okay, so wake up. Thank you.